The first scream shattered the quiet afternoon before anyone even realized what had happened. A man threw himself between a frightened little girl and a speeding attacker without a second of hesitation, taking the full force of the collision as tables overturned and glass exploded across the sidewalk. People froze. Some ran. Others pulled out their phones. But the woman standing only a few feet away, the powerful CEO who had reluctantly agreed to a blind date with what she believed was nothing more than an ordinary single father, watched in stunned silence as the injured stranger calmly shielded his daughter with his own body before scanning the entire area with the instincts of someone who had clearly survived far more dangerous battles. In that unforgettable moment, everything she thought she knew about him collapsed. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that remind us the greatest heroes often were the simplest faces. Meredith Holloway had spent 12 relentless years building Holloway Dynamics into one of the country's fastest growing engineering firms. At 38, she was admired by investors, feared by competitors, and respected by thousands of employees. Every achievement had demanded another sacrifice. Friendships faded. Family gatherings became rare. Relationships ended before they truly began. Every magazine praised her determination, but none ever mentioned the loneliness waiting behind the glass walls of her corner office. Her older sister finally convinced her to accept a blind date. Meredith laughed at the idea. She had no interest in awkward conversations or pretending to enjoy another ambitious executive obsessed with money and prestige. When her sister simply smiled and said the man was different, Meredith reluctantly agreed to meet him at a quiet botanical cafe on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Across town, Graham Mercer helped his 9-year-old daughter, Clara, braid colorful ribbons into her hair before they left their small suburban home. Graham worked as a restoration carpenter, rebuilding historic homes damaged by storms and time. His clothes were clean but simple. His pickup truck had nearly 200,000 miles on it. To strangers he looked like an ordinary hard-working father trying his best after losing his wife, Evelyn, to a sudden illness 5 years earlier. Clara had become the center of his universe. Every school project, every soccer practice, every bedtime story had become another promise to the woman he had loved that their daughter would always know happiness despite unimaginable loss. Meredith arrived at the cafe expecting disappointment. When she spotted Graham sitting quietly with Clara drawing flowers in a notebook beside him, she assumed there had been some mistake. He stood politely, smiled warmly, and introduced himself with genuine humility that almost seemed unfamiliar in her world. She noticed rough hands marked by years of physical work. His shirt had been carefully ironed but clearly wasn't expensive. There was no designer watch. No luxury car keys resting on the table. No rehearsed speech about investments or success. She silently questioned her sister's judgment. Still, Graham possessed something difficult to ignore. He listened without interrupting. He asked thoughtful questions rather than speaking about himself. When Clara accidentally spilled juice across the table, he laughed gently instead of showing embarrassment. Meredith found herself smiling more than she expected. For the first time in years, lunch didn't feel like a business negotiation. As they walked through the botanical gardens afterward beneath bright afternoon sunlight, Clara wandered a few steps ahead admiring butterflies dancing among blooming flowers. Then everything changed. A frantic man sprinted through the crowded walkway after stealing an elderly tourist's shoulder bag. Security guards chased behind him. Panicked visitors scattered in every direction. The thief shoved people aside without hesitation. Clara froze. Without thinking, Graham moved. His body shifted with astonishing speed and precision. He pulled Clara safely behind him while intercepting the charging criminal with movements so controlled they appeared almost effortless. The thief struck him with incredible force, but Graham barely lost his balance before expertly redirecting the attack away from nearby families. Meredith stared in disbelief. This wasn't luck, this wasn't instinct, this was training. Even after suffering a painful blow to his shoulder, Graham remained astonishingly calm, positioning himself between innocent people and danger until security officers finally subdued the attacker. As paramedics arrived, one emergency responder suddenly stopped while Examining Graham's old scars, recognition filled his face. Although he spoke quietly, Meredith heard enough. The paramedic thanked Graham for saving dozens of civilians years earlier during an overseas humanitarian evacuation that had become international news. Graham simply asked him not to discuss it further. Meredith's curiosity exploded. Who exactly was this quiet carpenter? Several days later she couldn't stop thinking about him. She discreetly researched his background. What she discovered left her speechless. Years before becoming a carpenter, Graham had served in an elite international rescue and protection unit specializing in civilian evacuations during natural disasters and terrorist attacks. His team had rescued hundreds of people across multiple continents. One classified mission had earned him the nation's highest civilian bravery recognition after he repeatedly entered a collapsing embassy during daylight hours to rescue trapped children while refusing evacuation himself until everyone else escaped. Media attention had briefly transformed him into a national hero. Then he disappeared. No interviews. No book deals. No television appearances. He resigned shortly after Evelyn became seriously ill, dedicating every remaining day to caring for her and raising Clara after her passing. Meredith couldn't understand why someone capable of commanding international respect now quietly repaired old houses without telling anyone about his extraordinary past. When she finally asked him during another afternoon together, Graham simply smiled. He believed the greatest achievements belonged in the lives they changed, not in the headlines they created. His answer lingered in Meredith's mind. For weeks, meanwhile, Holloway Dynamics faced its greatest crisis. A major manufacturing facility suffered structural failures after contractors ignored important safety recommendations. Although nobody died, several workers were trapped inside unstable sections of the building. Emergency crews hesitated because additional collapses remained possible. Meredith arrived desperate and terrified. Then she noticed Graham. He had been restoring a nearby historical building when he heard the alarms. Before anyone could stop him, he calmly evaluated the damaged structure. Years of rescue experience instantly resurfaced. Working alongside firefighters rather than replacing them, Graham identified safe access routes through weakened support beams. He recognized collapse patterns invisible to others unfamiliar with disaster environments. One by one, trapped workers emerged alive. The final rescue took nearly 40 exhausting minutes. When Graham finally walked out carrying the youngest injured technician across his shoulders, the entire crowd erupted into spontaneous applause. Reporters rushed forward. He quietly slipped away before cameras reached him. Meredith watched from a distance, overwhelmed. Power had always impressed her, wealth had always earned her respect, but humility like his humbled her completely. Over the following months their friendship deepened. Clara slowly welcomed Meredith into her life. They planted flowers together, built birdhouses, spent sunny weekends volunteering at community restoration projects Graham quietly organized without seeking recognition. Meredith began noticing how naturally people trusted him. Children adored him, older neighbors relied on him, struggling families somehow received anonymous repairs to broken roofs and unsafe porches every season. She eventually learned Graham personally paid for many of those materials despite living modestly himself. Success had taught Meredith how to build profitable companies. Graham quietly taught her how to build meaningful lives. His influence gradually transformed Holloway Dynamics. Executive bonuses were partially redirected toward employee emergency assistance programs. Mental health support expanded dramatically. Scholarships appeared for workers' children. Volunteer restoration teams rebuilt homes damaged by storms. Investors questioned the additional expenses. Unexpectedly, productivity increased. Employee loyalty reached historic levels. Applications tripled. The company became known not merely for engineering excellence but for extraordinary compassion. Months later Meredith finally understood something she had missed during that first lunch. Graham had never been poor. His wealth simply couldn't be measured by bank accounts. It lived inside grateful strangers, inside rescued families, inside a daughter growing into a compassionate young woman because her father lived every lesson he hoped she would learn. One warm afternoon Clara participated in a school ceremony honoring everyday community heroes. She surprised everyone by inviting Meredith onto the stage beside Graham. Instead of speaking about medals or dangerous rescues, Clara described the mornings her father woke early to braid her hair before school, the evenings he read stories despite being exhausted, and the countless times he quietly helped strangers believing nobody would ever know. She explained that real heroes didn't wait for cameras, they simply noticed people hurting and chose to help. many parents wiped tears from their eyes. So did Meredith, that afternoon beneath bright blue skies. She finally admitted something to herself: the blind date she'd nearly cancelled had introduced her not to the man she expected but to the man she never realized she needed. Months later, surrounded by family, friends, employees, neighbors, and countless people whose lives Graham had quietly touched over the years, Meredith and Graham celebrated not a lavish display of wealth but a simple daytime gathering filled with laughter, children playing in open fields, homemade food, and heartfelt gratitude. There were no celebrity guests. No luxury headlines. No extravagant speeches, only genuine smiles shared by people whose lives had become richer because one humble man never stopped choosing courage over recognition and kindness over applause. Meredith often reflected on how easily she had almost judged Graham by his worn truck, simple clothes, and ordinary profession. She had mistaken modest living for an ordinary life, never imagining the quiet single father beside her had once risked everything to save complete strangers and had continued doing so every day in smaller, quieter ways long after the medals stopped shining. His greatest secret had never been his heroic past. It was that he never allowed that past to become his identity. Instead, every new sunrise became another opportunity to serve, forgive, protect, and love without expecting anything in return. Before this story ends, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing whether you believe true character is revealed by someone's past achievements or by the quiet kindness they show every single day. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that appearances can hide extraordinary stories, that the strongest people often carry the gentlest hearts, and that sometimes the greatest heroes are not the ones standing on stages accepting applause, but the ordinary people quietly standing between danger and someone they love, asking for nothing except another chance to make the world a little safer, kinder, and brighter before the sun sets on another beautiful day.